Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Let's just start talking about this disaster Middle East trip to the nations that have been, buying off Trump, emoluments clause violations. I mean, Cohen, was this the most disastrous presidential trip ever? I mean, on the heels of Donald Trump capitulating to China in the disastrous trade war, bringing back the 145% tariffs, getting nothing in return. And then we learn about this $400 million 747 jet that Qatar's going to be giving Donald Trump. He goes to the Middle East and it's palace to palace, LaSalle Palace in Qatar. He goes to the Saudi Arabian palace, bragging about how he's getting these gifts and then whining, we've learned, to, his aides that he feels embarrassed if he doesn't have a gold-plated jet when he meets with these Qatari royal family people, while Americans here in the United States are suffering while he's lied about everything. And, you even take today, for example, Donald Trump in these royal palaces. He was on the military base in Qatar in Doha, just like whining and ranting and raving about the 2020 elections, just a bunch of nonsense, while he should have been in Turkey with Zelensky today, and Putin should have been in Turkey with Zelensky today as well. So I think you have to contextualize that, Cohen. Tell us what you think.
I think we have to break this down because you raise an incredibly important point. When you say that it's unsuccessful, is it unsuccessful? Or is it successful for him and for the Trump org, for the family business? Because I would venture to say that the answer to that is in the affirmative. It's extremely beneficial to him. I want to remind you, and something that I wrote about in my Substack, and it's on Midas Touch Networks digital as well. Ben, at some point in time, you remember in 2015, 2016, I've made this comment many, many times, that Trump had claimed that he wanted this presidential election to be the greatest infomercial in the history of U.S. politics. And he's living up to that promise. We have watched Trump misrepresent promises that benefit the American people, but not this one. This one benefits him solely and his company, whether it's his meme tokens, whether it's the real estate ventures. And I understand, I'm very mixed about this because I get it. Just because Trump becomes president doesn't mean that Don Jr., Eric, Ivanka, Jared, the whole mishpacha, that they have to go into retirement. I get that. But at the same point in time, look where Donald is right now. Look at the relationship. Look at the cozying up. Look at the comments that he's making about the Emir of Qatar. Look at the comments he's making about the Crown Prince of Saudi, MBS. Look at what he's talking about now, the head of the Arab Emirati. It's all fawning over them, and these are areas that they right now have active deals going on. And yeah, this is the greatest grift in the history of the U.S. presidency, bar none.
And, you see these MAGA Republican Congress members and senators, they have to now go on all of the right-wing media. And, for them, it's whatever Donald Trump says they have to do. And so you just see them, basically saying, why is it an issue if he gets this jet from Qatar? He's so rich that he's not trying to make money off of it. It's like, what are y'all talking about? Like,
what they're talking about, Ben? All they're doing is they're reading off of the script. And one thing that I want to prepare with you, and I want to off of this platform, I want to do the same thing that they're doing, meaning these talking points. How about if we start running with the talking point, Ben, of defend the Constitution or America deserves better? Go for those 2, 3, 4 word slogans. America deserves better.
When we talk about Trump wanting gold-plated jets and Qatari royal family stuff. I do think, though, to your point, Cohen, it is important that it's not just a talking point, but that we just always bring it back to the election and the promises made and the promises broken. And we're seeing that with the disastrous GOP tax bill, which Trump calls a big, beautiful bill, which is a big, massive disaster, as well. Because Donald Trump's entire campaign was a fraud.
Yep.
He ran on the concept that he was going to lower prices on day one, that he would bring peace to Ukraine and Gaza in 24 hours, that it would be so easy to do, that there wouldn't be any more, wars, and that he would solve everything, that housing would be more affordable. And it's been lie after lie after lie. And when you look at this big, beautiful bill, which is a big, massive disaster, you see now the Republicans have to increase the debt ceiling by $4 trillion. This overall tax disaster is going to add trillions and trillions of dollars to the deficit. It's the most fiscally irresponsible budget ever. And what's it doing? It's giving tax cuts to billionaires. It's ripping away Medicaid, healthcare, infrastructure, SNAP, supplemental nutrition assistance program. It's literally taking food out of the mouths of people. That's just the facts. This isn't a political position I'm taking to say, oh my God, this is the Democratic position or a talking point. That's what it's doing. And so while it's doing that, Donald Trump is out there palling around and wanting to be in a royal family, talking about gold-plated jets. And so I think fundamentally we have to connect these things together when we talk about it, because they are connected. And there's a reason why Donald Trump, when he's asked about, the oath to the Constitution, and are you going to follow it? Do you have to follow it, right? The oath that he took to protect and defend. Remember what he said in his interview? I don't know. You'll have to ask the lawyers about that, because he's supposed to be a public servant.
He is a public servant. Not supposed to be. He is, Ben, a public servant. You pay for his salary, whether he takes it or not. You're the one that's paying for him to fly on Marine One, Air Force One, including to live in the White House, including the Secret Service and all of the protections that go for him. He is, as are these members of Congress. They are civil servants who is supposed to be working for the people, bar none. Drop the mic and stop. He doesn't see himself as that. He sees himself as being above it all. And that's a very dangerous prospect.
It's a very dangerous prospect. And I mean, you saw his answer on Air Force One too, about he said it took him about a month and a half, he said, to decorate the Oval Office. And that he's been spending a lot of time focused on that. And now he goes, so after I decorated the Oval Office, by the way, which he painted these weird statues, gold. It's the most gaudy, awful looking Oval Office imaginable. But it's because he sees himself as the Qatari royal family or the Saudi. He views himself not in the context of our democracy and our system. We shouldn't forget, right, Cohen, when we talk about tariffs, everything that he's done is unlawful. Period, full stop. It has to work its way through the courts. We'll talk about the birthright citizenship case that was argued. Right. But we'll talk about that. But he doesn't have the power to tariff nations. Right. And to wreak havoc on our country. That belongs,
by the way, Ben, to Congress.
Exactly. So all of this that's being normalized, where he sends Scott Bessent and Jameson Greer to Switzerland to do these negotiations and enter into fake deals, which are basically capitulations of the tariffs that they put into place. there's the reason that we have a system that requires Congress is for this precise reason.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want a reckless king engaging in horrific conduct that has far-reaching implications. Cohen, the markets are damaged perhaps irreparably right now. Sure, are you going to see volatility where it goes up a little bit and it spikes on news that the tariffs against China aren't that bad? Yeah, of course you're going to have market manipulation and volatility. But overall, if you look at what's happening right now to the dollar, if you look at what's happening in the bond markets with the 20 and 30 and even the 10-year treasury yields heading towards a 5%, which shows extreme volatility, and the fact that foreign countries are not really buying our bonds to the same extent they did before. And Trump's whole concept is that everybody was laughing at us. Everybody was mean to us. Everybody hated us. And now we're respected again. No, Donald, we were the most respected nation. They may have been laughing at you, but not the United States. Why do you think the dollar was the world currency? Why do you think people, right? Why were people buying their homes in the United States from foreign countries? Why were they putting their money into the United States if they were laughing at us? No, we were leading the world under former President Biden. We were objectively. And now, objectively, we're not. That's just the data. And he can go around and pal up with the Qatari family, and the Saudi family. But you know this, Cohen, the entire GDP of Qatar, entire GDP in a given year is about $200 billion a year. Yep. It's not bad, but by reference, Canada's like $3 trillion who Trump views as weak. Yeah.
And by the way, we're 6.2 trillion.
27 to 30.
No, 6.2 trillion. Just our budget is $6.2 trillion, which is twice that of the GDP of any country that even comes close, like Canada. That's the point I'm making. We're 27 plus trillion as GDP. Nobody comes close. Ben, we're not just economically a superpower, but militarily. So when he says people were laughing at us, they were ripping us off, how could you be number one? It's the question I'm waiting for somebody other than you and I and this independent network talking about. How could you be number one in the world by a multiple of 2.5 times and be getting ripped off by everyone? It doesn't make sense. It's like being the heavyweight champion of the world. You've beaten everybody, but you're still not champion. I don't get it. I want to put it in terms like really simple terms that even Trump could understand, that even these far right-wing MAGA morons could understand. You can't be number one and be getting ripped off. You can't be the heavyweight champion of the world and getting beaten up by everybody and still hold the the championship belt. It's just illogical.
Two points I want to make on that. First, as I was saying, the entire Qatari annual GDP, $200 billion, yet Donald Trump announced that Qatar will be giving $1.2 trillion to the United States, that they've committed $1.2 trillion. So they've committed 6 times their entire annual GDP. That's how you know it's fraud, and it doesn't make sense right there. But corporate news will just report on it and just say it, 1.2 trillion. How about you just analyze the most basic fact? So you're telling me that Qatar is giving 6x its entire annual GDP to the United States? No, it's just a phony, fake deal that he goes there. So that's one data point. The other data point that I think is an important one, as Donald Trump has looked horrible on this trip. I mean, physically, the things he's ranting and raving about. I mean, you see that interview he did with Hannity. I mean, whatever. But did you notice, as Donald Trump is capitulating to China, as he's weaker than ever, as this would be the moment if media really gave a shit to hold him accountable, right? It's all lining up right now for there to be the right types of stories. Cohen, what have they been focusing on this week? Biden.
Yeah.
This has been their week of Biden.
Because Donald doesn't have anything else to talk about. Ben, look, if you have nothing to talk about and what Donald does when he doesn't know what to say is he goes back to the playbook, right? It's not the dumbest thing in the world because it's very Stalin-esque. But if I don't know what I'm going to talk about, just go right back to the talking point and go, Joe Biden was the worst. He was the worst. The worst. Low IQ, Joe. Joe, he was sleepy. He had no idea. Mind you, and I want our brigaders to turn around and to validate what I'm saying here. What's mainstream media doing right now? They're now running with a bunch of people who worked on the inside of the Biden administration, all attacking Joe Biden, basically saying that Joe Biden was mentally incapacitated for the last, let's say the last year or so of the presidency, and that the inner circle were actually running everything. So why do you think that Trump is out there right now hammering on Biden? He hates Joe Biden. I'll tell you who else hates the Biden family. It's Don Jr., right? There was a young lady for Business Insider that wrote an article about Don Jr. is the new Hunter Biden. Because remember when the Republicans were attacking Hunter Biden with Burisma, $1.3 million as a board member and so on. Yeah. How much money do you think that Don Jr. is making from this hedge fund, this capital fund that he started? How much money do you think the Trump organization is making from Live Golf, making it from the hotel deals, the real estate deals, the licensing deals, the transactional deals that are just deals that we know about? These are deals that we know about. The meme coin, as an example. So he took tremendous offense to it. Well, I don't know. 1 year or so ago, I remember seeing a clip of Don Jr. making a statement that he wished that he was more of a Hunter Biden during his father's first administration. He would have made millions. All right? This is what we are dealing with right now. Ben, you are spot on.
The fact that they're focused, American people see it though. Cohen, you know how I know American people see it? And they know that they're like, stop bringing up this Biden shit. No one gives a crap right now. You know what we care about? We care that there's been a hostile takeover of our federal government, and we're worried if there's even going to be a free and fair election in the midterms. We see Donald Trump out there bragging about $400 million gold-plated jets. We see that's the price it takes to buy off the presidency of the United States, a $400 million gold-plated jet. Americans see that in the tax bill, Medicaid's going to be gutted. America sees what's going on in our airports right now. America sees women's reproductive rights being taken away. America sees the head of HHS, Health and Human Services, RFK Jr., saying, I don't know, don't look to me for medical or health advice. I don't know what I'm talking about at congressional hearings. Americans see all of this, and they see the lies. And then when these MAGA Republicans want to be like, well, do you know about the trans volleyball player? Do you know about peepees and vaginas? Americans are like, shut the F up. And we saw this in Omaha, Nebraska, where the longest serving Republican incumbent mayor in the country went all MAGA in this last election, Jean Stothert. And she started talking about the bathrooms and this. And the Democratic candidate, John Ewing Jr., was talking about potholes and infrastructure. And here's what I'm going to do for you. There was a 20-point swing from the last election, 2021, to the Democratic candidate, John Ewing Jr., who's now the mayor-elect. And you all may be saying, well, Ben, Omaha's kind of purplish and Omaha, Nebraska goes blue. But let's be very clear. The longest-serving Republican mayor, a 20-point swing is nothing to look lightly at. And we've been seeing that across the country right now in all of these elections because Americans are fed up right now and Americans are focused on issues that matter to them. Their health care. Americans are focused on their livelihoods, their jobs, the economy. That's what they're focused on, and not this BS that corporate media wants to push over and over and over again. All right. I want to take our first quick break of the show, Cohen. We've got a lot to discuss when we come back. Let's take our first quick break of the show.
You ever look in the mirror after a week of political insanity and think to yourself, wow, I look like I just did a 3-year bid at Otisville with no moisturizer. Yeah, well, me too. Long work weeks, chaotic weekends, and stress that ages you faster than a Trump deposition. That's why I tried Prolon. And let me tell you, it's the real deal. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet, it's like hitting the reset button without actually starving yourself like you're trying to sneak past the feds. I mean, it's all plant-based, soups, snacks, teas, all of it scientifically designed to nourish you while your body thinks it's fasting. Basically, it tricks your cells into rejuvenating like they just got a subpoena and need to clean up their act and fast. And now, boom, they've dropped the next gen version. Same science-backed magic, but cleaner, tastier, 100% organic and ready to eat. Because who has time to fast like it's 1999? I mean, I did the original program, felt like a new man. Now, I'm all in on next gen because this isn't just about looking good on camera. It's about feeling good off camera too. Look, this stuff is no gimmick. It was developed at USC's Longevity Institute and it's backed by top U.S. medical centers. I mean, we're talking biological age reduction, better skin, more energy, fat loss, metabolic health. Basically, it's like turning back the clock without even having to sell your soul. So here's the deal. For a limited time, Prolon is offering Political Beatdown listeners, get a load of this, 15% off site-wide plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just head to prolonlife.com/beat. That's PROLONLIFE.com/beat and give yourselves a little beatdown of their own in the best possible way. All right, let me tell you something. When you spend years in stiff suits, tight collars, and clothes that feel more like armor than fabric, finding something that actually fits and feels good, I mean, that's a game changer. True Classic, it's not just another t-shirt brand. They figured out how to make clothes that actually work for real life. I mean, these tees, like the one that I'm wearing right now, they fit exactly how you want them to. They're snug in the right places, relaxed where you need a little room. There's no weird bunching, there's no pulling, no rolling up at the waist, just clean, effortless, dependable style. But they didn't stop with t-shirts, no. True Classic's full lineup has you covered. Hoodies, jeans, activewear, the works. And the best part, it's all affordable. I mean, you're not shelling out designer prices and you're not stuck with cheap, disposable junk either. And look, I respect that these guys do things with purpose. From the quality of the fabric to how they treat their customers to how they give back, it's clear that True Classics not just building a brand, they're building trust. So here's the move. Head right now to trueclassic.com/beat. Use code BEAT and upgrade your wardrobe. You can even grab their stuff at Target or at Costco if you're running errands. But trust me, once you try it, you're going to want more. Again, head to trueclassic.com/beat.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Let's talk about some of these hearings as well.
Yeah, I really wanted to jump into that as well. It's been really bothering me. When I watched that last night, Ben, I don't even know how many times I screamed at my television set as I watched Kristi Noem be disrespectful to Eric Swalwell. I mean, imagine. And I like Swalwell's comment. I have 3 kids, a 5 and a 3-year-old, and I have a bullshit meter. I'm asking you a simple question. You don't want to answer the question, and she clearly didn't. It's a very simple question, but you could not get, no matter how hard he tried, he could not get a response out of her. And I don't know how one goes about conducting a hearing when the person on the other side who is subpoenaed to be there refuses to answer any question at all. I just don't know what to do. You can't hold them in contempt because they're there, right? I guess all you could do is bring her back again the following day, and then the following day, and then the following day, and keep asking her more and more questions. But then they'll make a motion claiming that you're taking her away from her very important duty of cosplaying, wearing an ICE outfit and running off to El Salvador, with a machine gun and a solid gold Rolex on her wrist, running off there in order to show just how strong that they are. I mean, it was the simplest thing. Looking at this photograph, can you please tell me whether or not, yes or no, that the M, the S, the 1, and the 3 are AI placed letters and numbers on this hand? Didn't want to talk about it. Didn't want to give an answer. Refused. Ben, as like myself, a lawyer and a former litigator, tell me, please, what would you do? I had no idea what I would do.
What would I do if I was Congressmember Swalwell? And that's the answers that you were getting. I think you do. Look, when I would have a witness on the stand and the witness was being ridiculous, you wouldn't be able to go there and just tell the witness, you're a liar, right? I think you just point out to everybody, and it's exactly what Congressmember Swalwell did. Like, this is absolutely absurd. And he just pointed it out by showing, he's like, all right, let's hold up the sign closer to you if you can't see it. Do you see right there where it says MS13? Do you see it right there? That's doctored, right? That was not in the original photo, right? It's the symbols. It's not that. And she said, why was she doing that as well? Because Donald Trump in his ABC interview said, no, it actually says the letters MS13. That's what it actually says that. And it doesn't. And she can't contradict Trump on anything, because, by the way, you saw what happened, was it a week and a half ago, where the super MAGA guy who was running FEMA, who called himself a MAGA candidate when he ran for Congress, he was the interim head of FEMA. And he was asked a question at one of the hearings. Do you believe that FEMA should be destroyed? Do you want to see FEMA dismantled? He's the head of FEMA. He goes, personally, I think that FEMA should exist. That was his answer. He's the guy who heads FEMA. That was the wrong talking point. He had to say, I think FEMA should be eliminated. He got fired. They perp walked him literally right after the hearing, the head of FEMA, because he refused to say he wanted to dismantle FEMA, got fired from FEMA. And then they brought in this guy, and there was this whole press conference that this new guy had who's like, I'm the sheriff in town. You're going to listen to me and we're going to do what Donald says. That's literally what the guy told FEMA. There's no more Mr. Nice Guy around here. Cohen, that's just another example, though. We won't get it down that rabbit hole, but I want to just flag it here. We're starting to approach hurricane season, right? We know what's going to happen from past years. This is a disaster that we can't stop the disasters that are hurricanes. We can't stop that, but we can be prepared for them, right? To mitigate the damages. When I spoke to Congressmember Moskowitz several weeks ago, remember, he ran emergency management relief in Florida. He actually was a Democrat in the DeSantis administration in a nonpartisan role of dealing with emergency relief in Florida. And that's how he became a member of Congress, that he was actually viewed as being very, very good at that job with all of the disasters that were taking place in Florida. What I asked him, I said, what are you worried about right now most that no one's talking about? He said to me, FEMA. I said, why? He said, if they gut FEMA, he goes, look, you can make FEMA more efficient. There are some things that you can deal with. He goes, but if you say that this is a issue that the states have to deal with, states don't have resources. That's why we have a federal government. He goes, you're going to just have some of the biggest disasters ever. And Cohen, we're marching in that direction. So I'm answering your question in a circuitous way, but I think the point holds, which is the problem with these answers, right, is, okay, Kristi Noem, you've wiggled out of giving an answer. You're part of a regime that's never going to hold you accountable for what you're doing. You think that's a win because you didn't have to answer the question. And therefore, you can perpetuate depriving people of due process rights, right? Those aren't wins.
But Ben, the win for her. Yeah, but Ben, the win for her is that she stays in Trump's good grace. And that is the direction that you're talking about, which is a direction of authoritarianism and monarchy, dictatorial rule. That's what it is. God forbid. And we saw what happened when you had a journalist who spoke ill of dear old Crown Prince of Saudi, Mohammed bin Salman. He was very unhappy with a guy by the name of Jamal Khashoggi. You may remember that name, the individual who was in Turkey, who went into an embassy and never came out, because that's what monarchs do. That's what dictators do. That's what supreme leaders do, not, as Ben started off this conversation with, presidents of the United States. This is not presidential. This is dictatorial.
And when Trump is at these Qatari and Saudi palaces, sucking up to these dictators, authoritarian, royal family people, to me, that's where when you go back to these hearings, you then are able to show, look, this regime finds its affection not with our allies in NATO, but with authoritarian regimes. You see it play out. That's where he's comfortable, ranting and raving in front of the Qatari emir and the Saudi crown prince. And then you have the Syrian leader getting in on the action. We'll do a Trump Tower in Damascus if you take away the sanctions against us. That's against how
Syria. They do it. Could you imagine against Syria? We're talking about countries that have been on a list, an American list of sponsors of terrorism. And now all of a sudden, if you build a building here in Doha, right, or in we're going to release sanctions against Syria. Look, I'm all for world peace. Don't get me wrong. And if that means that we're going to ease, say, restrictions on Syria, perfect. If we're going to ease restrictions on the UAE or Saudi, which, by the way, still has human rights violations, specifically women's rights violations, This is not the process that the United States of America has demonstrated in order to impress upon other countries that human rights need to exist everywhere in the world, right? I mean, women need to be permitted to drive. Women need to be permitted to have jobs. Women need to be able, to do more than just bear children. They need to be able to own bank accounts and to own land. I mean, we're talking about prehistoric shit that it's hard to believe that in 2025 that this is what still is out there, but there is. And so these human rights are legitimate issues, and it's one of the reasons why that these groups are actually on these lists. It's really terrible, Ben. And that whole display by Kristi Noem, the display by Marco Rubio, and by all of these sycophants and these enablers sitting there, they're actually not doing Trump any favor, to be honest. They're really putting a shit stain on this.
Think about some of these other deals, Cohen, that have been cut that aren't even getting enough attention, and ask yourself, if Obama, if Clinton, if God forbid Biden cut deals like this, we have a ceasefire with the Houthis after they shot down 8 Predator drones. We've lost 2 F-18 Hornets jets in the Red Sea. And then after losing that military equipment, Donald Trump gives a speech. The Houthis are brave. What brave and strong people and courageous they are. Could you imagine if Biden praised the Houthis as being brave and courageous? And after,
you imagine if you were a member of the military and you're hearing your commander in chief talking about your enemy that way?
He saluted when he was in the Middle East. He saluted the Saudi army. He saluted the Qatari army. You have an American president saluting. You have Trump cutting a deal with the Mexican cartels without telling Mexico. He cut a deal with Chapo's kid to bring in 17 family members through the Tijuana border with the United States without contacting Mexico. The Chapo family was brought into the United States as part of a deal. Could you imagine if Biden on his own cut a deal with the Chapo family, didn't coordinate with Mexico? You have Donald Trump bringing in the Afrikaans from South Africa. 2.7 million Afrikaans are allowed in to the United States of America because Donald Trump is relying on falsehoods that there is a massive genocide taking place against white South Africans right now, which has largely been debunked. But you have Donald Trump saying that 2.7 million, only the white South African Afrikaans can come in no matter what, while Donald Trump goes after, by the way, his own Cubans for Trump, Venezuelans for Trump, Latinos for Trump, Mexicans for Trump, and all of them. So you have all of that taking place, Cohen. And I don't want that stuff to get drowned out as well. Same thing with the economy. We're in a contracting economy. We have the CFO of Walmart also coming out today saying that prices are going to be going up. Prices are going up. And we've got all of that going on. So I don't want to ever lose sight of it. Cohen, who are you going to give the 2-finger salute to, sir?
Look, let me be very clear about something. It has to go to Marco Rubio. I mean, this is a guy who is supposed to be going ahead and making statements that say, you know what, I am the Secretary of State. As far as I'm concerned, what Trump is doing, I mean, somebody has to literally stand up and say, this is just not right. From the grifting to the actions that are taking place around the world solely by one man who thinks that he's a one-man government. And Marco should be that person. He should behave the same way right now as he did when he was running against Trump for the presidential nomination. And so, Marco, seriously, fuck you.
Michael Cohen and I have to cut the show short today because I am in New York and I've got to fly back and I got to get home. So a shorter political beatdown than usual, but we want to thank everybody for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the Michael Cohen YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast. Subscribe here to the Midas Touch YouTube channel as well. We appreciate all of you. We're grateful for you. A shorter episode today, but we'll make sure we make up for it next week. Thank you, Cohen, so much. And thank you, Beatdown Brigader. Shout out to the Midas.
Safe travels.